It is exceedingly difficult, to the extent of functional impossibility, to be green. No matter how hard one tries, no matter how environmentally conscious one self-reports to be, it is damn near impossible to have no impact on the environment. Regardless of what we do, we live in a society. We live in a world that, by its very nature, is not able to conserve nature. I have a car. I drive a car. And I don't really like the fact that I drive a car. Obviously, it's spewing carbon dioxide, among other waste products, into the atmosphere all the time. It's, of course, rather expensive to do so. And the fact that it sits in a parking lot that could instead be a meadow, drives on streets that could instead be streams, I'm contributing to the problem, and I know I'm contributing to the problem. Everything I do, though, contributes to the problem. I go to the grocery store, and in the grocery store, all the things that I buy are wrapped in plastic. The broccoli, for some reason, had plastic wrap on it. Even though it's just broccoli, I could just take the broccoli and buy it and go home and do what I want with it. Don't need the plastic, but for some reason the plastic comes with it. This is true of basically anything. And most of that plastic is not recyclable. We make ourselves feel better by recycling things, throwing the plastic stuff in the blue box, but in most jurisdictions, most cities, you can't even recycle most of the plastic that you do throw in the blue box, and there's other stuff that obviously doesn't, like bags and stuff like that either. Like one way or the other, you don't have a choice. There is no option to not in some way contribute to the problem. And yes, I could go move out into the woods somewhere and just disappear from modern civilizations, give up all my worldly conveniences, and just go live like a hermit in a self-sustaining permaculture earthship or whatever. And yeah, that'd be cool, but unfortunately that's a position of privilege. It requires one to have the resources to be able to, do that, but then also have the skills and the ability and the temperament and the work ethic and all that sort of stuff that also is pretty hectic. It's not something that I think at this point I'm capable of, and I certainly don't have the resources to do that kind of thing. And what's more, like, even if one does live radically off-grid like that, you still have to interact with society in some way. There's no way to really remove yourself, your impact from the world. And even if you could, there's 7 billion other people. And yeah, that's a lot of people, but I'm not making an argument for, like, pure overpopulation here, because there are ways that 7 or 8 or 10 billion people could live on this planet without completely destroying it, but we are nonetheless breakneckedly rushing to that point. The problem is more about how the people are organized, how things are coordinated in such a way that it operates, more or less. And in this system, it is explicitly or implicitly destructive to nature inherently. Value under capitalism is measured with respect to dollars, which are an abstract measure. They're not really tied to anything. The closest thing that you could tie them to is the value of an abstract amount of labor time. And this kind of makes sense, but it kind of also doesn't include nature into the calculations of any economic equation. So nature is effectively an externality to any supply-demand curve, to any profit and loss ledger. Effectively, it's not even really being calculated in any of our economic logic, which means sometimes that destroying environmental resources, being biocidal, actually makes you money. And if there's an economic incentive for bad behavior, you get bad behavior. And so with it built in to our system in this way, with it underlying all of our activities, all of our decision-making processes, all of our various processes, there's no way for an individual to actually make any difference at all, unfortunately. And I sound pessimistic, I sound cynical, but that's just the way it is. There are no choices that the consumer can make to actually solve the problem of the environment. You can't buy an environmentally friendly product. You can't. That's greenwashing. Basically, they're selling you the idea of environmental consciousness without doing anything actually substantively for the environment. This leads to the logic of conservation, where the implied meaning there is that we're trying to conserve a natural resource for future exploitation, to continue to be able to draw on this natural resource in perpetuity, or at least as long as we possibly can. What we really need is preservation, as in like just keeping nature because it's nature, because it has value in and of itself. Plus it also has value for us. We can, in theory, just chew through everything. We can pave over all the meadows and cut down all the trees and everything, and we would live just fine for a while, but eventually things will crumble. Because those environmental ecosystems, like, that is what keeps the air breathable. That's what keeps the water drinkable. Without that stuff, we literally all die. Or we have to live in giant underground bunkers, and nobody really wants that, I don't think. And unfortunately, to make any progress on this, we're going to need a radical change to the way that we operate. We are going to need to basically stop with this whole capitalism thing, and rather than pegging the notion of value to an abstract and arbitrary number, little pieces of paper with funny faces on it, or a number on a computer screen, instead of doing it that way, we need to measure value with respect to ecological sustainability, human happiness, the things that actually mean something, something that actually will motivate good behavior due to economic incentives rather than bad behavior due to economic incentives. And this is not an easy feat. This is not a trivial task. This will require basically stopping what we're doing. Now, of course, there's always this resistance that comes up because people don't want to give up what they have. They like their house and their car and their fence and their lawn and their 2.3 children and all that sort of stuff. And they're afraid of giving that stuff up. They don't want to, live like Return to Monkey kind of thing. But that's not what I'm proposing. I'm not talking about living off the land like like Neanderthals or something. I'm talking a complete shift in our modern way of life so that we can have many of the same luxuries. And in fact, some of the things we consider to be luxuries now actually kind of suck. The luxuries that we could have if we move towards an ecologically healthy way of life could be actually a lot better. Because I don't like having to drive a car. I don't like the fact that I have to look at it in a parking lot down there. I don't like, it's awful. It's downright awful. But it is a means to an end to do the things like grocery shopping to get from one end of the city to the other. What I really prefer would be a high quality mass transit system. Something that's quiet and cheap and easy and fast and just does what I need it to do without having to maintain a car, without having to do all those other sorts of things. We could have many luxuries like this if we were willing to work together towards such a thing, rather than continuing to scramble for what is ours and continuing to segment off our own little castle with fences in the suburbs. This is not a judgment on people that have castles in the suburbs. You didn't have an option. You don't have the choice to do anything else and maintain the same level of luxury. Because we all love luxury. I like luxury, but unfortunately, luxury in this culture, in this society, comes at the cost of our eventual extinction. Anyway, I make videos daily. This one's a bit of a downer. Sorry. Check out those videos. They might be less of a downer, or they might be more. Who knows? If you do like this content, or whatever it is I'm saying, hit the like button, algorithmic stuff, yada yada yada. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.